Always one of our favorites here on Radio Row at the NFL Combine. I'm Matt Taylor, joined now by NFL Draft Insider from The Ringer. Austin Gayle is with us. Welcome back to the Midwest. I know you're a SoCal guy. I know you like the warm weather, but we're doing our best. Yesterday was good. Today, not so much. The weekend looks pretty good, too. But good to have you back in Indianapolis.
Nothing
sir.
like the Midwest to have a 60-degree day and then drop to a 30-degree day the next one. And then, I'm walking home from the bars last night. I won't say what time. It's raining on me. I'm like, I need to go home soon. No,
you
but
just had like 4 different days.
Yes, exactly. The weather. When I first moved to Cincy, when I was working at PFF, I remember someone said, if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. In San Diego, if you don't like the weather, go somewhere else because it's probably the best weather in the country. So I do like
it's going to stay the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's Cincinnati, Indianapolis, man. You get it all here. I joke with my wife all the time. It's like, why do we live here? We choose to live here. We have roots here. How did that happen? All right, before we get into the draft, before we look ahead, let's look back a little bit. How surprised last year, because last year on Radio Row, I remember we sat here, you sat across from me, and we talked ad nauseum about the quarterbacks because of the situation the Colts were in. Now, not so much, but looking back a little bit, we talked about C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson, but Bryce Young. How did Bryce Young's season come to pass? What happened there, in your opinion?
I mean, I don't think it's all that different than kind of the lower range of outcomes that people, specifically me and I think others, expected with him going into the NFL. I don't think that the Carolina Panthers had an infrastructure where he could have a lot of success. I think a lot of the first half of that season, you're like, who's getting open for this team? They can't run the football with Miles Sanders, even the investment that they made in him. And that, I think, is part of it. But you look at the second half of the season, and even as the supporting cast gets better, it's starting to gel, you still see the limitations with Bryce Young in that he's not able to do a lot of the same things that he was doing at Alabama in terms of creating outside obstruction and all that stuff, because the guys are faster, the guys are bigger, and all of those things. I worried about Bryce Young last year because this is the kind of games I thought we could see from him, in that he doesn't have this rocket arm that can get him out of trouble. He is a good athlete, but he's not a phenomenal athlete that can get him out of bigger, stronger, faster guys in the league. So much of what he has to do to succeed in the NFL, in my opinion, win inside of structure with guys getting open. Carolina just legitimately did not have that last year. So I don't know if Bryce Young – I think this could easily be Bryce Young's worst season we see, right? This could be like the worst of his NFL career, but I don't necessarily know how much better it gets from here because I don't see this range of outcomes even on the high end where he's able to – be this like legitimate elevator of talent because of the limitations he has in size and athleticism and arm talent, but also limitations in that something that I've talked a lot about with this draft class too is that there's guys who've gotten a lot better over the course of their careers. We have like 24-year-old quarterbacks in this class with Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and everyone's like, well, they've gotten a lot better, right? Bo Nix at Auburn, terrible. Bo Nix, as he got into Oregon, a lot better. Jaden Daniels at Arizona State was literally kicked out of his locker room and he moves to LSU and he's having more success. Where you want to see players get better is in finding new ways to solve their problems. Jaden Daniels, his new way is, I'm just going to run the football, right? And it's a lot kind of similar to what Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh was like, I'm just going to run the football. I'm going to get the ball faster. And like for me, those ways that when you're finding at the college level, if it's just like we're going to run the football, not going to work in the NFL. And then with Bryce Young, I want him to find ways to win that isn't relying on some of the stuff that it was at Auburn, which is like I have to extend the play, I have to do these off-platform throws because he does not have the juice to make those kinds of throws in the league and be super successful. He needs to find a way to win within the structure of the offense, and that offense also needs to get better as well.
How much better is this group of quarterbacks compared to last year? And I know C.J. Stroud turned into C.J. Stroud, but just in terms of potential, how bigger is the ceiling this year compared to last year?
It's a good question. I think Caleb Williams is a better prospect than any of the prospects from last year's class. I had Anthony Richardson as the number one quarterback in last year's class, and I think I would have had Caleb Williams over Anthony Richardson. I think Drake May, better prospect than maybe Bryce Young was. I think that C.J. Stroud, that's where I think Stroud and May may be in the same tier. Maybe people have May over Stroud. Some people might have had Stroud over May. But I think that the difference is this Caleb Williams separator, right? I do think that he is a special, special talent. Some people have him in the tier with May at the top of this class, Drake May, the UNC quarterback. I have Caleb Williams in a tier by himself. I think he is hands down the best quarterback in this class. And I think reasons why people want to put him in this tier with Drake May are all, in my opinion, just tied to the fact that he has to create so much outside of structure. He had the longest average time to throw in college football of last year. Go back and watch this USC offense, and I know it's got big names. Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury, Jerry Rice's son. The offense was horrible. bad design, bad structure. No one's getting open. And so there are times where you're like, Caleb's moving through his progressions very quickly and maybe looking to move out of the pocket earlier or abandon early pockets. For me, some of that is tied to having no expectation that the play itself is going to work and him having and wanting to create. Then you factor in that Alex Grinch's defense there at USC is averaging like 50 points allowed per game. So then all of this additional pressure on Williams to be the superhero he can be, I think ended up putting him in situations where people are like, he's trying too hard and he's doing too much. I want to see him win within the offense. I do not have those problems with Caleb Williams. I think if you put him in an offense where guys are getting open and there is more consistent structure and you're seeing a more diverse philosophy, I think you're going to have a Caleb Williams that people have not seen yet, and that's what's exciting.
Is there an argument to be made that he might be better in the NFL because he doesn't have to shoulder all that load and responsibility because the defense stinks and the scheme maybe doesn't suit his skills the best?
I think he's absolutely going to be better in the NFL. Now, I wonder if the situation that he goes to, if it is Chicago at the number 1 overall, they need to be aggressive in improving the offensive line, adding receivers that legitimately move this offense forward. I know DJ Moore is there, and I think DJ Moore is a phenomenal talent. I think you'd still like to see them add to that offense because what I've found with highly drafted quarterbacks, especially ones with, I'd say Caleb Williams does have a decent wide range of outcomes in that there are some ways if he does go back to his kind of USC days where he's maybe going out of structure too much and doing these different things, I worry that it'll be hard for him to develop as a passer and develop in the right ways. I think it's easier to break a quarterback with expectations in a bad offense than it is to make a quarterback when you're drafting him 1 overall or 2 overall. For me, Chicago, if you're bringing in Caleb Williams, there needs to be this significant investment in wrapping him with the right talent. I think people bring up the Josh Allen developmental curve where oh man, by year 3 he was amazing.
Right.
People forget just the work that the Bills front office did to add to that offense and support him in the ways that they did. I think every quarterback, as good as Caleb Williams is, needs that kind of support from the front office to build around them so he can actually develop.
All right, top half of the draft, the consensus is, you talk to everybody, is that there's so much talent on offense, going to push some of the defensive players down to the middle part of the draft, which is where the Colts are. Do you see it the same way as in terms of it being so extreme, quarterbacks and wide receivers 1 through 15, let's say?
I think so. I think another reason for that, too, is the offensive tackle class is very, very good. Olu Fashanu of Penn State, I think, is phenomenal.
Plug and play guy.
Exactly. Joe All is a plug-and-play guy out of Notre Dame. I think that even going down to Talais Fuaga out of Oregon State, who could be a tackle, could be a guard, doesn't matter. He's starting. Troy Fautanu of Washington. J.C. Latham, I didn't even bring up, out of Alabama. Those are, I think, that, and also, offensive tackle being a premium position and having this talent, and the guys with a lot of traits, I think that's what's also going to drive maybe some of these defensive players down. At the edge position, I like the UCLA receiver a lot. Am I taking him over some of the blue chip receivers in this class? Probably not. Maybe even not over some of these offensive tackles. Corner is where it gets interesting. I think Terrion Arnold, the defensive back or the cornerback out of Alabama, is someone who reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you remember this guy, C.J. Henderson out of Florida, who he came to this combine and lit it on fire. But there was this question of, does he have the chip on his shoulder? Does he have the bite? Does he have the fight? And I remember talking to him, and he's a little bit of a quieter guy, and he lets his play talk. And Terrion Arnold, I think, has all the physical skills of C.J. Henderson, but this aggressive and bigger edge. He's for lack of a better phrase, like a louder player. I'm not talking he's screaming at people the entire time, but you can just hear his presence on the football field. And when you combine that with physicality and all that, the speed that he has, I think that the cornerback class is the one that maybe one of those guys sneaks into the top 10. Maybe one of those guys sneaks into the top 15 as well.
All right, based on where the Colts are at, again, sitting there at 15, based on how they're constructed right now, the holes that you have for them and some of the things you have pegged for them to get better going into next season, what's a better play for them? Drafting, let's just say hypothetically, let's leave out the names and the universities and stuff like that, but is it a better play for them to draft the 5th or 6th best wide receiver? Maybe that's a little bit extreme based on what's in front of them, or the second best corner or the second best defensive end to help take that defense to the next level.
I think that if Rome Odunze, who I think is wide receiver 3 or consensus wide receiver 3 in this class after Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're not getting Odunze there at 15, go corner. Because I think you're going to get an opportunity at either Nate Wiggins of Clemson, you're getting an opportunity at Kool-Aid McKinstry, the other Alabama corner, and if Terrion Arnold's there, I'm there. I think that attacking corner and getting the CB1 or CB2 in this class at 15 is a slam dunk for the Colts there at 15.
And those are guys that can play right away.
I think so. I think Terrion Arnold, play right away. Corner is a tough one to say, play right away. Pat Surtain is maybe, the only corner that we've really seen be able to, or I guess Sauce Gardner of late too, like guys who can come in right away and be high-end performers. I don't know if there is a Pat Surtain or a Sauce Gardner in this class. I think there are guys, though, that have the physical tools to not be liabilities. Are they going to be these Surtain-level, Gardner-level defensive playmakers right away? I don't think so. I do think that getting a Nate Wiggins or getting a Terrion Arnold and having that speed and that athleticism on the back end makes sense.
And Brock Bowers, no trepidation there, despite the fact that he's listed on a roster as a tight end. He's just a playmaker.
I like Brock Bowers. I think that
you're hesitating.
So why I'm hesitating is I want
you're the first guy to hesitate.
I want to see what he weighs in at, and I know that's like a little number. It doesn't matter, but like there are very, very little examples of tight ends coming in and having success under 245 pounds. There's like I think 8 of the last 10 years that have had more than 50 receptions in a season that weighed under 245, and I'm not even sure if Brock Bowers is going to weigh at 240. He might be like a high 230s player, and that to me is like where are you going to play him? He's going to be in the slot, and can he be an inlined blocker that a lot of people ask? Like, people bring up Sam Laporta. It's like, I would take Sam Laporta in the top 10. Sam Laporta is a behemoth. Like, it's a different thing. So, with Brock, I love him. You take him there at 15. I bet you he is going to be one of those players that's competing for, top 5, top 3 receiving yards at the tight end position. Where I worry is how diverse can he be as a player? Because he's not Kelsey size. He's not Laporta size. He's not Hawkinson or Kittle. Like, that's just not the type of tight end he's going to be. He reminds me a little bit of Dalton Kincaid, who the Buffalo Bills just recently drafted, and he's someone that you want to play in the slot, and you want to get out in space and all that kind of stuff. Is that a player you're taking in the top 15 over guys?
Kincaid's a bigger guy, though, right?
Yeah, Kincaid's even a little bit bigger than Brock Bowers as well. So that's where I think that's where a little bit of the worry or the pause is with Brock Bowers for me.
All right, is there a guy in this draft that you love that you seem to be kind of only on an island for, if you will?
The island was small, I think, at the start, but I think it is getting bigger.
More populous.
It's the Georgia offensive tackle, Amarius Mims. He's missed a lot of time due to injury, so the sample size when you're looking at some of the production data as a pass protector is not there. But when you look at what he can do as a mover, when you are 6'7", 340 pounds, 21 years old, I need that at offensive tackle. I think it's one of the positions where it's similar to edge defender in that if you have length, you have speed, and you have size, it's very hard for you to fail in the NFL. I remember when Daniel Jeremiah, and maybe this isn't a good example because injuries have hurt his career, and Amarius Mims has already struggled with injuries, but talking with Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network when Mekhi Becton was being drafted, he's like, why this guy's going to go like top 5, top 10? It's because he's big and fast every single day he wakes up. Doesn't matter what's going on. Now, what's happened is he's been hurt a lot, and maybe there's concerns there with Mims as well, but those are the kind of players I want to bet on, especially if I can get them halfway through the draft.
All right, I know you're not an Indy weather guy, but you got to be an Indy combine guy.
Oh, of course. I love the combine. Every time I come here, I think it's been 5-6 years in Indianapolis. I think the bar scene is very unique. I think that the food is growing on me. It's a lot of steak during the week. You got to find a way to fit in your chicken, fit in your salad, because every single night they're going to be like, where are you going? Prime, St. Elmo's, wherever you're going to go, you're probably going to get a steak. But I do like Indianapolis a lot. I always like coming back.
No, we're happy to have you, man. Even though the weather's not conducive to you.
I'm not complaining.
We still appreciate you.
If I have to go back in a hurricane from when I'm walking back from the bars of the hotel, it's worth it if I get to come to the combine.
No doubt about it. Always enjoy our chats, man. Really appreciate your time, and best of luck going forward, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it.